Everyone. My name's Jess. I'm one of the psychologists at Prosper Health Collective. With the holiday season upon us, today I wanted to share some tips that are really important in allowing you to set and maintain healthy boundaries and really protect your well-being at this really busy time of year. So the holidays are obviously a time of joy and connection, but often it's also a time of pressure. And particularly if you throw in things like, increased social obligations or tricky dynamics with family members, it's really easy for us to take on too much and find ourselves in a place of burnout or exhaustion. So today I'm going to share some tips about how to set healthy boundaries and also maybe how to handle some of those difficult situations where your boundaries might be tested a little bit. So tip number one is really simple, and that is really just knowing your limits. So intentionally checking in with yourself about where is my energy right now? How much can I actually take on? And that might mean reflecting on how much time you can spend with family, how many outings you can attend, or even how much emotional or financial energy you might have to give at this time of year. So everyone's going to have a different capacity, and it's really important to check in with where your capacity is actually sitting and making sure you're not taking on too much. So step number two is really focused on communication, and particularly communication that is both direct and assertive. This is frequently something that people find a little bit uncomfortable at times, and it might be that we're used to, really being concerned about how others may react or feeling a bit nervous about potentially disappointing people. But in the long run, if we're not prioritizing our own needs and self-care, we're going to find ourselves frazzled, overwhelmed, and really not in a place to be present for others in the way that we would like to be. So when you're clear and assertive and setting boundaries in communication, you're actually showing respect to both yourself and the other person because you're being really authentic about what you can and can't do. So tip number three is a communication strategy that I actually include a lot in my sessions, and that's something called the broken record technique. So this is a really useful communication tool if you're faced with someone who's kind of repeatedly pushing up against your boundary. And it really involves repeating your needs in a calm and respectful way without falling into apologising excessively or getting defensive. And what this technique involves is, for example, if someone is pressuring you to maybe stay longer in an event than what you feel comfortable with, it's just calmly asserting, I need to leave by 8 p.m. if that's the case. And making sure that you are really kind of repeating and asserting that point as many times as you need to in a respectful way. So it may feel a little bit uncomfortable at first, but with practice it does become easier. And it's about remembering that you do have the right to say no without really needing to feel like you have to justify yourself endlessly. It also helps because repetition will really solidify that boundary and communicate it clearly without you getting kind of drawn into unnecessary conflict or being sidetracked and diverted away from what you're actually trying to say in the first place. So tip number four is about managing conflict because no matter how well you communicate with others, sometimes disagreements are going to arise. And when this happens, it's really important to stay as calm and grounded as you possibly can. So initially, it's really important to acknowledge the other person's feelings, and that really shows that you're hearing them and actually validates their experience or concerns, even if you don't necessarily agree with what they're saying. So, for example, you might say something like, I understand that you're disappointed that I can't go to this event. I really wish I could be there, but I've committed to too many things at the moment, so I'm going to have to draw the line this time. Also, if you get drawn into a situation like that, compromise can be really helpful. So saying something like, how about we actually make some time to catch up after the holidays? I'd love to do that. That shows that you care, but you're still protecting your emotional energy and your needs. My last tip is really just to remember that self-care is not selfish. Setting your boundaries is an important part of looking after yourself, and it lets you kind of prioritize your well-being. But it also allows you to be continually more present for others in a way that's sustainable rather than overcommitting and finding yourself burnt out, irritated, and cranky. So I hope these tips are helpful for navigating the really busy holiday period. I really appreciate your time in watching the video, and I hope you have a safe and restful holiday season.